Welcome back to the Talk Past podcast. Of course, I am NC, your channel host, and our podcast co-host, the War Queen. Hello.
Hooray! I am a miserable pile of secrets, aka Red Iron Riot, aka the War Queen. Glad to be back.
Indeed, we all have at least 100 names each.
Look,
Uh,
it's an identity thing, and I enjoy it.
mhm,
So
Indeed, we're
I,
all
I dream of fun jackets with patches. So
there. You
with
go.
names on them.
I dream of them canceling the Fantastic Beasts series.
Oh, if only, if only.
If only.
Mhm.
Saw the Northman. We had sort of discussed this on an episode for the trailer.
Yep, we discussed the trailer.
But have you seen it?
I have not. Only when you announced that, when you said that you were doing the, the actual review of the Northman, I was like, oh, is the Northman out? And that's that.
Oh yeah, I don't even know when it came out. It came out maybe like what, a week or two ago.
I don't pay attention to movies anymore.
Likewise, movies today have kind of just honestly they're not worth the price of the food.
Oof. Big oof.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think the last time that I saw a movie that I was excited for after seeing the movie, because at this point I don't really care for trailers or anything of that nature. I don't see a movie unless like everybody's critically uh, happy about it, right? Like not like some commercialized success like Marvel, but
Yeah.
something where people are like, "Wow, this was a very thought provoking."
Okay, so I
Blah blah
will take that back. I was excited for one movie and I didn't even
blah.
see it. I had wanted to go see Cyrano with my sister
I have
because
no clue what that is.
it's actually it's Peter Dinklage on the one hand.
Oh,
So
ew.
really, I wanted to see him in a role
Yeah,
that wasn't Tyrion Lannister. So I was kind of interested. That's one of the reasons I was interested in it.
yeah, he's gotten in trouble lately for. Remember, there was the news that Disney was going to sabotage Snow White by doing a live action version,
I did not hear
and
that.
then he's like, "You better not have dwarves in it." In like the
Oh.
only story that actually does have dwarves, as opposed
Oh.
to like the Wizard of Oz, where they're not really dwarves, or something else where they're not really dwarves. So it's kind of like, you know, kind of questionable, but at least they're getting work situation. But he's like, "How dare you use dwarves in a story that uses dwarves?" And actual dwarf actors, little people, were like, "Shut up. That's our livelihood. Who are you to open the door for yourself and then shut it behind you?"
Big mood, big mood.
Yeah.
So, just as a kind of what it is, just so you know, and you might be interested in it since it's set in the 1640. It's kind of medieval adjacent. The plot summary for Cyrano, and this is the musical play that they or the play that they based the movie off of, I guess.
Mm.
Um, a a cadet who is a nobleman serving as a soldier in the French army in the 1600s. Just this kind of cool dude, and he's very lovelorn. And it looked interesting, and I kind of it was a little like it looks neat. I kind of want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. But just to cap up my sentence there, because like tangent. But the last movie that I was excited to watch after watching was Joker. I think. I went into that being like, okay, it's different. We'll see what it's like, and then being like, yes, that was a great, thought-provoking piece of cinema. Thank you.
And there's
Um,
just not like a lot like that lately.
yeah, everything's just commercialized and corporate now. And I mean, I'll watch Jurassic World Dominion just to kind of hate watch the ending of the saga, but we'll see. Yeah, I already mentioned before we started recording the bad guys. I saw that too, and although I don't even know if the wolf has a name, but I think they just call him Wolf. But Wolf, and I think her name is Diane or Diana, the fox. they're cute characters. They're like the only developed characters, but really that movie didn't need to be made. I feel like that was a movie that they spent more money making it than they really needed to.
I could see that being a thing. It's like one of those movies,
Yeah.
it's like we're as a vehicle for, famous names, like a bunch of
There
I wanna
weren't
say it was
even any in there. Like, it
no?
was a bunch of no names. Nobody I recognize, at least.
Well, okay, that's fair. It's like Aquafina. I'm like, "What? Aquafina? Oh, she's like a pop."
Oh,
I
she's a
don't know.
drink. Okay.
Shit. But yeah, no, yeah. You'd think that this the name would be attached. Like you'd
Yeah.
have some names attached to it at least. But oh well, it's eh.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm getting to that age where the people I know are the people we grew up with. So
hmm
I didn't know anybody in the movie. Some of them sounded mildly familiar, but voices. Um,
Just nothing that really like you weren't like, oh hey, this person is voicing a thing in this movie.
yeah, it was
Hey.
it was it was nice to be able to immerse into a film within the film, even though it wasn't a great film, as opposed to a movie where it's like Tom Cruise trying to play someone that's not Tom Cruise, but all he knows how to do is play Tom Cruise. Or, a famous actor that we grew up with who clearly at this point, whether they're truly great at acting or generally just known for being themselves, like all you see is them. All you see is Tom Cruise or Mel Gibson or Will
Or
Smith,
Dwayne the Rock
etc.
Johnson.
Yeah, he's something, right? The only person I think I've ever been able to allow that sort of suspension of disbelief of persona, and this movie had that. What we're about to talk about, Northman. But I think because most of them were all covered up with their beards. But maybe Robin Williams.
Okay, that's a fair example.
I think he's someone who can get lost in his role.
I can see that. I can see that. All right, so we kind of grabbled about it enough, I guess. So,
Rubble, rubble.
tell me about the Northman.
Okay, so let's go over this experience that I had this weekend. So I had plans, didn't happen, but I still had to deal with a hotel for like 2 days, or well, 2 nights. And the first night, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just go see Northman. There's a theater down the street, the dine-in theater, which over where I am at the moment, there's one right across from where I work, which is kind of a restaurant theater, sort of like Cinebistro down in our
hmm
former
I
area.
haven't really had the chance to try one of those places out yet, even though
And
they've become, much more mainstream, I guess.
the one I live near has been a restaurant cinema far before the restaurant cinema thing took off. Uh, they
Huh.
used to have like, granted, it's like Applebee's quality food, you know. So it's like,
In fairness, sometimes you just want some Applebee's quality food.
yeah, it was prime food for watching a movie, as opposed to like expensive candy and popcorn. You're going in, you can have a cheesecake, you can go in and have some nachos and some real nachos, like baked nachos, uh, or a nice, restaurant quality burger or steak or whatever. Um, this dine-in theater was just your generic theater food, but they brought it to you. So,
Huh.
okay, whatever. I got the milkshake and popcorn, water. It's a 2-hour movie. Why are movies 2 hours anymore? That's another thing I liked about The Bad Guys. I specifically, before I went to see it, looked up how long it is, and it's only like it was like 140 minute. No, it wasn't 2 hours. It was like an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good length for a throwaway film. Oh, yeah, you know what? I'll go see it. I'll
hmm
waste that time and not be. It won't be egregious like seeing the Lord of the Rings.
But here's
or
the
whatever.
thing, would you complain about seeing Lord of the Rings? Very unlikely.
If it was the Hobbit series, I would. Speaking of course, Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit taking inspiration from Norse mythology. Um, so I went in. I didn't really expect much out of this movie. I'm not going to go into depth in terms of the medieval aspects of it because we already discussed that in the trailer, and literally everything in the trailer to discuss as it pertains to medieval history is what you see in the film. You know, there's a few minor, we shut a door, minor egregious things like the uh, satyr practicing individual wearing the Veg of Seer symbol, which is not historically Viking Scandinavian. It's
Hmm.
a modern Christian stave. There's some minor stuff, and fortunately, it's all minor stuff. I was very taken aback by how much effort was put into this film to make it historically accurate and otherwise historically adequate. From the runes are correct, the dialect is correct with exception of the English. Uh, Obviously, when they speak the Norse, it's correct. Um, the clothing is all correct. There's minutia in the clothing, like there's things taken from the saga, and just little descriptions here and there from well, just for lack of a better word, Viking history that they really put into this. And you know, this has a lot of energy and care put in that you don't see in things like Vikings or the sequel series Vikings, Nazi Blood, or you know Fallen Kingdom, even 13th Warrior, which I think is the closest to this in terms of respect to Vikings and sort of in terms of presentation on screen. So beyond the medieval stuff, this is more of just a movie review. Uh, it starts. It's a very serious movie. It takes itself very seriously. Um, all the characters or all the actors definitely kind of blend into their role. I definitely grasp the sort of mud filter that you talk about here. If you've seen any behind the scenes images and footage of the Northman, all of the clothing they're wearing and the colors and fabric is historically accurately dyed and sewn and handmade and stuff. And it's all vibrant and accurate to historical reference. But then they've got this absolute gray filter that just completely drowns out all color,
Tragic.
completely drowning out all color in this movie. So it's literally almost, you may as well call it a black and white film. To this effect, some scenes it works. You know, some scenes they really could have, considering the care and effort put into making it historically adequate. I think they did themselves a disservice by putting in that low saturation filter because showing the vibrance of that world would have immersed us even deeper.
Hmm.
Because I mean, if you even see the interiors are accurate. The interiors are well lit and beautiful, but because it's gray filtered, it's just dreary and like watching not Vikings, but the Fallen Kingdom. Which in Fallen Kingdom, of course, every interior is just got like two sconces and then that's it. And obviously you've seen it, so I can't bounce off you, but we'll back and forth on maybe some comparisons. But it's sort of chapterized, right? It's like a black screen, then runes, and then subtext, which has nothing to do with what the rune is saying. Um, like it'll say like the beginning was like Crow Island or something like that, and then the rune just says Atlantic Ocean. Like yes, but that's not the you could have just literally did the interpretation and it would have worked. So I don't know why they did that. But it's I mean the overall gist, because we'll do a little in depth, but the overall gist is it's basically Hamlet versus the Lion King versus the sagas of Amleth.
Well,
Um,
basically, it's Viking Hamlet.
yeah, I mean we can do some nitty gritty like
If you had to
obviously
boil it down to its essence, it's Viking Hamlet.
Actually, I would more say Viking and Lion King because
So
I feel like they took more from the Lion King than they did Hamlet, although there are some references to Hamlet, specifically Hamlet, rather than just, the saga they pronounce it Amleth. It's not how you pronounce it. That's a very Latin pronunciation. I'm gonna butcher it, but I think it would be like Amlodi or Amla.
I can hear that. I can hear how that would might be the pronunciation, knowing what I know about the dialect.
Yeah, everything here is Latinized, which I guess is for the best for English audience. But yeah, no, there's a lot more taken from the Lion King, like almost directly, than say Hamlet. Um,
So are you saying that you could take scenes from the Northman and put them side by side with scenes from the Lion King?
I would say references rather than direct scenes. Something else that is obviously the same exact story, I think is more of a reference. Now, I've never seen Hamlet. I have no intentions of ever seeing Hamlet. I really don't like Shakespeare. I don't care about Shakespeare. In fact, I don't even think Shakespeare existed. Um, I think that's up for debate. He probably did, but whatever. We'll be contrarian here.
Here come
Um,
the day after you release this, you find just a bunch of angry English majors in your
how dare
driveway.
you? Are you like that woman that says there's no Roman Empire? No, no. Um, I just I saw I know the references, so I saw a couple references to Hamlet, but there are some direct references to Lion King that are not part of the saga. Which of course, obviously, Hamlet and the Lion King are direct references to the saga of Amleth or
Hmm,
Amla. So they're taken from the Vikings. Goes to the point that, like Avatar is nothing more than Pocahontas dances with wolves, Ferngully.
oh.
And I feel like Pocahontas and Ferngully did it better than Avatar. So, how many times do we have to watch the same movie before we just stop watching them? Like, I understand with Avatar, the whole point of Avatar was not to do something original,
Mhm.
original story. It was to test out this new technology. So he did something safe, and
In
he wanted
fairness, it was really pretty, and I did enjoy it a lot.
for what
Just
it was well done. Like Northman, for what it was well done. But I'm kind of tired of watching the same movie over and over again. I'm tired of watching The Lion King. I'm tired of watching Pocahontas. I'm tired of watching Romeo and Juliet. Tired of watching Julius Caesar. So even though, and unfortunately, obviously, this is the saga. Like this is the direct uh, saga. They do take some
Mhm.
creative liberties, but this is the saga of Emla, and unfortunately, it's coming in 2022, years after Shakespeare has already cornered the market, that The Lion King has already cornered the market in cinema, and so it just kind of comes across as recycled material. Um,
Oof, big oof.
so I didn't, I'm definitely gonna buy it when it comes out. I'll definitely see it maybe one more time.
But it's not something you're gonna jump at the chance to be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we do a special edition," or, "Hey, we're gonna do a sequel for some reason."
Oh yeah, this one's definitely not gonna get a sequel. But because I'll go into a deeper review once I have my gripes. But my overall gripes, right? Um, one thing that I would say about this film, as an overall, is one much like the bad guys, this film did not need to be made. I feel like the money spent on this film could have gone to like a billion other different things. But all the same, I feel like a movie like this needed to be made because this is maybe the only film that accurately depicts
Certain things.
Scandinavian culture and history. Granted, they only go to Norway and Iceland, but you know what I mean. Like, it's the only film that actually accurately depicts those people.
So
And
you're basically saying while story-wise it isn't, stellar and you're not really vibing
yeah,
with it, technically, like, overall technically, costume and setting design and set design,
presentation.
it's presentation's just chef's kiss.
We needed this movie's presentation after dealing with Vikings, the spin-off show Vikings Nazi Blood, and then Fallen Kingdom, and then 13th Warrior, etc., etc.
And
We
then just all
needed
the general Viking
all the clearly
stuff.
either offensive stereotypes or the Victorian Viking theater representation. We needed this
You did,
film
yeah.
for the representation, but all the same, I wish they went with a more original story or maybe
Mhm.
a different saga
I feel like
story.
that's a fair criticism.
Yeah,
Like, if there was, like, any serious criticism, it's just like, y'all coulda told a good Viking story without doing something that's basically been done over and over again, and it probably would have been
yeah,
better.
yeah. Maybe take one of the saga stories that maybe a little bit more fantastical, so you don't have to do that mud filter, or something that if you want to do the nitty gritty, in the dirt as this film was, get something that isn't The Lion King. Like I get that it is the saga story. I mean, it's not ripping off Hamlet and it's not ripping off The Lion King, but at this point we don't need another Lion King. We don't need another Spider-Man. We don't need another Batman. We don't need another, the same all these origin stories. We don't need the same story told over and over again. It's just it's ridiculous. But I love that we finally have representation that's accurate. I just wish the story was original.
That's fair. On a side note, I just wanna take this tangent because you mentioned it. My sister loves the new Batman. Like, she enjoys
The
it
one that just
immensely.
came out?
Yeah. The
Okay.
one with, what's his face?
Yep, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. She enjoys it. She's actually pretty impressed by it, so I
The
just
weirdest thing now, obviously, I'm famously and aggressively anti comic book. Um, I don't know. I've never gotten into comic books. I've tried, but I hate comic book movies of every variety. I hate them. But I love when they do something different. When it's like the anti comic book movie, Logan, Joker, um, Watchmen. But for some reason, I find myself enjoying the modern Batman movies more than anything else. I feel like Batman definitely lends itself to that sort of modern, gritty, ultra realistic sort of thing
Mhm.
they're doing. Um, Starting with, of course, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. We won't mention the third one. That one didn't happen. I didn't see this one because it looks like a 3-hour movie that I don't feel like watching. Um, I'm done with 3-hour movies. If it's I want it either if you can't tell a story in 60 to 90 to one, to however long the bad guys was, I'm not gonna see it. I know Northman was 2 hours, but it's a Viking thing, and this is medieval content. So,
Yeah, that's fair, and yeah, you're right, it is about 3 hours runtime almost.
oh yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to pull us too off the track, you
No,
mentioned
no.
it, and because my sister's someone I'd care deeply for, knowing that she enjoys it, it's just like
Oh yeah, I hear very good things about it. I think eventually when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll try to watch it. But
thumbs
all
up.
the same, I'm not going to a theater experience for a 3-hour film ever again.
Yeah, 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 no, that's fair. I remember seeing the Titanic in theaters. Boy, Z.
Oof, oof, yeah. I wasn't allowed to because I was a kid, and I had to beg to be able to get the DVD, the VHS at the time. And then a rogue aunt, gave it to me. She's like, "Don't tell anybody." I'm like, "I don't."
Rogue ants giving us
I'm like, "I
giving
don't
out.
care. I don't care about the titties. I don't care about the romance angle. I love the Titanic for its historical aspect. So much care and effort, and
Ee.
also at times, disrespect went into making that movie and it was such a fine work of art. The same kind of care and respect that was put into Northman to make that a fine work of art for Viking and I wouldn't even say Viking. Really, there's not a lot of
Medieval
Viking.
enthusiasts.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of Viking activity going on in Northman. It's not really a Viking movie. So it's definitely much more. So let's get into a more in depth review here. So to me, it's more of a Scandinavian reference. So you've got a film that is taking you into the mindset, the culture. Like literally, there's a scene where they're just casually having a conversation in the background about things they would have a conversation about back then, like we do today. Stuff that has is not even relevant. It's just like, oh, yeah, the person going to, I heard such and such is heading over to Constantinople and blah blah blah. That kind of brilliant thing that you don't really hear in shows like Vikings and The Last Kingdom. A more play by play review. So in the beginning, we get Amla, who is a young quote unquote prince
Oh, is our
of
is our
King.
Simba basically?
Yep, he's Simba. Um, give or take. I don't recognize any of the names, so I'm not going to say them. I also don't recognize most of the roles. I think Ethan Hawke was the Mufasa of the film. Um, but he's coming home, kind of mortally wounded from going a Viking. He takes his son to basically become a man. To basically Mufasa guiding his son to the cliff to be like everything beyond the sun. Everything the
Everything
sun
the light
touches
touches is our kingdom.
and everything otherwise is Saxony.
What about that
Um,
dark place over there?
that's
That's
the church.
jeez. Oh man, no, I'm sorry. That's just zapped a hilarious mental image into my brain of just a bunch of high schoolers. Just a bunch of high schoolers hanging on the top of a high school. It's like this town is our territory. This is where we hang out. What about that dark spot over there? That's the church. We don't go over there.
Mood, mood. Um, and there's some sequences we get very so painfully brief. We got such a offensively brief bit of Willem Dafoe as the jester.
Oh, really?
And
Really?
yeah, Willem Dafoe is the jester. Does a brilliant. Willem Dafoe's a great actor. He's someone that gets lost in his roles as well. But at this point, yeah, he's got basically a cameo, effectively. But he's the jester. He makes vulgar remarks as they would. Um, as the uncle is coming in, of course, Scar.
Vulgar
Um,
remarks and farts.
yep, and Mufasa Simba sequence, which whatever they have their thing. They do their whatever thing, trying to become dogs without the pup masks. Then once they're done with that sequence, which kind of is whatever. Uh, Obviously the uncle Scar coming in wearing pile woven wool, with a historically accurate gear and armor, everything and all that hip rock and jazz coming in, and they kill Ethan Hawke. I believe Ethan Hawke is the Mufasa type. They kill the father, and Emla escapes as literally in the same fashion as Scar and Simba.
You mean he's chased down by a herd of wildebeests?
Yes, he is the individuals surrounding uh, uh, something of that nature. Whatever his name was, it's unimportant. He looks like Scar. Literally looks like Scar. He's dressed like Scar. He's in Scar's colors. Um, which actually I gotta look again if they had any black, because black wasn't around back then. Black as a fabric, so I gotta look. But also, yeah, his hair is black. Like he looks like Scar. He talks like Scar. The dude is Scar. Like he is a direct reference to Scar. and then everyone around him has those historically accurate animal masks that they wore, and then he turns and he's like, "Kill him, kill the boy," like Scar. So his hyenas go chasing him, and he gets away, and he does his little Game of Thrones mantra. Then we skip to he's like an adult now, um, long-haired, wild wolf boy, Mowgli, Viking Mowgli. So we had
Womp womp.
Craig kind of disconnected, so I don't know where he kind of cut off. But I was getting into the point of Scar's son, and so Scar's son reminds us of one of our people in the show that we do in kind of interesting ways. And Amla, or Amleth, as they'll say, he
Mhm.
kind of just gets in the good graces by just being magically powerful, I guess, and magically good at everything. If people want to complain about Ray, we got to complain about Amleth. Um, and so he integrates, he kind of climbs up the ranks to an extent.
Mhm. And then kinda from there, it's just like
It
the
just
whole
kind of escalates.
revenge.
Yeah, he does things. He gets a sword, which can only be unsheathed at night. He fights a Draugr, which was a great representation of the sagas, although him and the Draugr would have actually had a conversation rather than fought. But I thought that was a great representation. At least a little thing that a little insert from a saga. Um, and then he just the romance stuff and blah blah blah. Finds out his mother is evil. His mother planned the death of his father.
Oof.
Um, the uncle. I mean, so big thing. Before we close out here, there is no like protagonist in this movie. Amleth is a dick. Amleth does all the horrible things. He's killing not just the men but the women and the children too.
Oof.
And he's a bad person. He does bad things that
Do
but
they kinda try to play him off as a bit of an anti-hero then,
yes.
or
Yeah, I'd say he's an anti-hero. I would say he's human. He's human. I mean, he's not good. He's not bad.
and it's not a so it's he's human, it's not a bad thing he's the way he is, but it's just like, this dude's not
I feel like I mean, he does a lot of things that are morally the antithesis of what they would have done back then, to some extent, because morals were different then than today. There are some things in this movie that are morally far from what we get in the 2020s. Like this is not a quote unquote woke film. It's just a film that has accurate representation or adequate representation of Scandinavian peoples, but it's not perfect. It's certainly not woke. It's definitely, fortunately, not that stupid Viking Nazi culture, which has somehow become a thing.
uh,
Even though the Vikings were diverse, he's very much an anti-hero because the uncle, honestly, the way the father is described throughout the film, kind of like you understand Amleth's perspective, but also the uncle's perspective. It kind of feels like the uncle was doing them a service by kind of
huh.
killing the father. Um, but Amleth was just Amleth is selfish, right? He's a child. His father was everything to him, and his world was
And his
shattered.
father
So
was also the king, so he basically
so he comes back and wants to avenge his father. That's the only thing he wants to do. So that's all he is. It's morally all he is vengeance. Um, and
do
then we
they
get
do they get into this well, never mind to know. I was like, if it ended differently, I would have asked that.
well, we'll go into the ending then, since I mean he does things to integrate and ascend, but they're really, I mean, we don't need to do the monologue or the montage. So he tells the uncle, "I will see you at the gates of hell," and the uncle's like, "Yes, I will see you there at the gates of hell." Okay, okay, which is the volcano. Uh, and so Simba and Mufasa have their Simba and Mufasa fight,
On Pride
where there's
Rock.
lots of on Pride Rock with the fire all over them, and they're completely naked. And why I don't know. I guess maybe because of the lava and the fire. I don't know, but they're
They're
completely
naked
naked.
because we want to show some man butt.
And yes, so they're naked and they have the Dragon Ball Z screaming contest where it's like 10 episodes, but they're just screaming. And um, I don't know. Their fight wasn't really memorable, honestly. It was a very anticlimactic ending, honestly. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this, okay. Why are you naked? Okay, we're doing this. Okay, well, it's over. Oh, okay. I guess I'll go home now. Uh, spoiler alert. I don't care. It's been out for 2 weeks. They kill each other,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's probably the best outcome, really, because neither of them are good. Neither of them are bad. They're both kind of a holes. They both killed a bunch of people for no reason. They
Oh
both
boy.
the people that support them are also dicks. You know, so
Dicks all the way down.
yep. And then
Tragic.
yeah, I mean it the film itself, the best comparison I can give it is Avatar. For what it was good, but
But story
to
wise, it was just not, it didn't hit that
it
mark.
it yeah, it didn't do anything for me. It was like, yeah, I've seen this movie already like 3 times before,
I
you
haven't
know?
seen it done up in Viking, which is cool, but I've seen this movie so many times already.
Yeah. It's like, again, it's unfortunate that it took this long for the sagas to be represented, but Lion King has already cornered the film market for the sagas.
Or for just
So
the story that
yeah,
the saga was based, that
any
was
way,
based
shape,
from
or
the
form that
saga.
they were gonna yeah, any way, shape, or form that they were gonna do this was gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, that's Hamlet," or, "Oh, yeah, that's Lion King." Um, so, I mean, at that point, just do something else. Give us the representation. Yes, I want an accurate or adequate Scandinavian, because this wasn't a Viking movie, but Scandinavian representation movie, but I don't want the Lion King. Much as Avatar, I don't know. I don't, are
Yeah.
you planning on seeing the sequels?
Uh, if they do the same thing with the 3D that they did with the first one, then yes, just because that was a fun experience. Otherwise, I've read better fan fiction.
Yeah, it's just like I'm like,
And I will say that straight. I have read much better fan fiction
oh
than
yeah, I've written better fan fiction for Mortal Kombat.
a
Um,
a. So from what I'm seeing, this also is the point where the Valkyrie shows up.
yeah, so there's after he confronts his mother tries to kill him, and then his mother's child with the uncle tries to kill him, like Chucky, literally like Chucky the doll.
Oof.
Um, he's like almost mortally wounded. He tries to escape with his girlfriend because now she's preggo, and he's like, "Screw this! I'm
Of
just gonna go
course.
have a happy life with her," and then decides, "Nah, I'm gonna go kill my uncle." Because toxic masculinity. Why be
Because
happy when I can be manly?
Viking.
Yeah, why be happy when I can show everybody my testicles? Um, and let how hairy they are. But there's a scene with the Valkyrie, which we've already talked about, is beautifully dressed and very very adequately historically represented once you actually get into what all the fabric and stuff is. Why she looks the way she looks, with the exception of the stupid teeth, which were not a thing. Um, and a few other obviously egregious crap. But the Valkyrie picks him up Ooh, one thing I love about this film, every religious and every spiritual and every sort of everything that is considered superstitious
And Supernatural.
is in supernatural is immediately followed up with a real world explanation
Hmm.
with with the Valkyrie. He's in a daze. Obviously, he's bleeding out, um, seemingly to the death. Right? He's
Right, right,
bleeding
right.
out, and so that's what he's seeing. He's imagining a Valkyrie coming to pick him up because that was their religion, that was their culture.
Yeah.
Uh, on the battlefield, the Valkyrie, blah blah. We'll get into that maybe, but she also comes at the end of the film to pick him up when they all die, and I mean, but yeah, I was mentioning that I love the representation of the superstitious immediately being followed by a real world explanation. When the Valkyrie picks him up at first, it's his girlfriend who immediately says, "You were not easy to carry here. It was me, not the Valkyrie." And when we're seeing these having those moments with the individual that practices quote unquote women's magic, which he's adoring. He's cross dressing aside from his Vegetarian symbol, which is modern Christian stave. But basically, in the beginning, we've got Willem Dafoe who's practicing their magic and warns not to practice. Was it Willem Dafoe? I believe it was because he was also the high priest to quote effectively.
Mhm.
Um, he says not to practice women's magic, and then on Iceland, Amleth is directed toward an individual that does, and he's cross-dressed in accurate Scandinavian women's clothing, and he's got the head of Willem Dafoe, and all of that is whatever stuff is explained away when he fights the Draugr. Uh, it's just a vision. It's the thought in his head. Like you're about to grab the sword from the dead
Mhm.
dude, but you think maybe this guy's gonna stand up and fight me.
There's some
And then you
sort of psychedelic fungus going on in there,
then
baby.
yeah, you snap back to reality and it's like, oh no, just grab the sword. So I really like that because I love the Scandinavian
I could see how that could
history.
be really interesting, so I'm actually kinda curious now.
Yeah. The only thing that was kind of stuck to the saga was the sword. The sword cannot be drawn in the light. It cannot be drawn during the day. It can only be drawn at night or at the gates of hell. So
Mm.
there was kind of like cute moments where people are trying to draw it or he's trying to draw it and it will not draw, which is in the saga.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a direct reference to the saga. Um, but I really like that. I mean, there's some things that are like that where it's just like very tiny minutia of supernatural, but relatively can be explained away. Like maybe the sword just keeps getting stuck. Uh, I mean, there's very little that I dislike about the movie. The only thing really I don't like is the minutia of misrepresentation and
Mhm.
and the fact that it's just the Lion King. I
So
mean,
to bring it kinda to a close here, overall, would you recommend The Northman?
I would I would absolutely recommend and every single reenactor, every Viking reenactor, I would recommend to our cast, um, and everyone interested in medieval history or at least Scandinavian history to watch this movie because it is accurate to at least mostly adequate representation of history. I mean, geez, they had reenactors in the movie making the stuff, accurately making the stuff. So, like they went the mile. They did a bigger effort to make this accurate than Jurassic Park did. And Steven Spielberg thought he was doing pretty good with Jurassic Park, right? Like he put an effort in, but you know what I'm saying. Um,
Yeah, 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 there was you're saying there's love somebody
Rob,
loved
Robert
this stuff enough to do it and make it
Robert
happen like
Eggers
this.
Yeah, Robert Eggers actually listened to his people. Um, I would say at least 99% of the time, or maybe 90. Um, so yeah, no, I would definitely recommend seeing it at least once, but you're not going to get anything spectacular out of this movie. You're probably not even going to remember the movie after. Um, I don't even remember anybody's name except for the main character.
Yeah. So, you said that this movie is very somber, very, like, serious, so it's not, like, party night kinda movie? It's more of a
No, there's very little humor. Honestly, it feels like a very dead and dreary movie. Like it almost feels like maybe they didn't even enjoy making the movie. Like that's how like just like dreadful the mood is just throughout
oof.
the entire thing. The only wonderful illuminating piece of the film literally is Willem Dafoe in the beginning of the movie. Because he just he's got his character as they would had just like the perfect bite of crass, legitimate, vulgar humor of the time, and he portrayed it that literal one line so well. And
So, do you think it'd probably be worth it to, just wait for, like, a YouTube of, "Here's all the, the best bits in the movie that you really should
yeah,
watch."
yeah. I mean, if you're a reenactor and you don't want to slog through 2 hours of dreadful, gray filtered, maudlin, but beautifully written and beautifully acted, uh, you know, period piece, find a YouTuber like ourselves, um, who can give you the fine points that you might be looking for in terms of what you're looking for. Like, are you? And now I will reference YouTubers. Are you like a Jackson Crawford, who's more interested in the language and the runes and the religion? Or are you more of like medieval content, you and I, or a Opus Elenae and a Welsh Viking who's more interested in the clothing and the fighting and the armor, the artifacts, if you will, and the crafts? You know, the immersion into it. I mean, there's a little bit of everything for everybody in terms of reenactment, but I definitely would recommend. You know, you can get everything you need out of a YouTuber.
Mhm. You get somebody to just parse it down and
Mhm.
get you the meaty bits and
You know,
tasty bits.
those people that do, like, trailer breakdowns, like, immediately after they come out?
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as you don't watch any stupid, like, reaction videos. Here's a reaction video to the trailer.
Alright. Well,
But, yeah.
I'm actually on the fence now. It's a matter of it sounding very droll that kinda has me hesitant about watching it.
Like I said, I would for people like us who do reenactment, I would suggest seeing it at least once and seeing it as a piece that you can get ideas from, that you can take a look at what it should look like when you're out on the field. With exception, obviously, maybe look at the backs.
Mhm,
Make sure
mhm,
you look at the behind the scenes stuff to see the actual colors. But
mhm,
in terms of what they're wearing, how they're wearing it, and the diversity of things that they're wearing and using, I think
mhm.
a reenactor should see this movie with a critical eye. But if you're looking to see a movie, this is not it.
It's a pretty solid review, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what a casual observer would see from this film. Um, Obviously, we're reenactors, we're history buffs, and
Mhm,
Buffy the Vampire Slayers, so we kind of see it differently. I don't know if maybe the casual viewer who doesn't know anything about Vikings would have been like, "Hey, that was a good movie,"
mhm.
or whatever. I don't know, but to me, I would give it as a movie. I'd give it like a 4 out of 10. As a Viking slash historically Scandinavian, because like I said, it's not a Viking movie. As a historical Scandinavian movie, I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10.
Alright, good to know. Alright, so to wrap it up here,
And that's pretty much it. Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty much
it.
it. Before we basically finish up, do you have anything you wanna announce that you're doing or working on?
Yes, yes, because we always get to this point and then I never do. But I really should because we do have stuff on this channel. Um, I don't know why I've been holding back, but I still have to finish that Martibo bag, which I've only got 2 sections to sew. Um, that's gonna come up. I'm gonna try and put more how-to videos back on the channel. I've got some live action stuff coming up, and specifically Patreon. I know nobody's on our Patreon, but instead I'm gonna go ahead and set up a Ko-fi for the channel, which is at a much more lighter, much
Mhm.
more as you please sort of means of helping to support us.
One
And
step at a time, one step at a time.
indeed, indeed, Patreon is kind of morally oof, but also it just feels like a big slog to get through. So you'll probably get the Martibo Bag episode on the 6th instead of a podcast episode. I'm going to try and push the podcast to once per month. But if I don't have a video to do in its place, then, we'll all chat. And then beyond that, really not much. It's just my apologies for everything being a podcast episode at the moment.
Hey,
I work
hey,
in a full
hey,
time job. So
that is
if I,
how that is.
yeah, I'm trying to save up for a house. And then once I'm back down, we'll be able to do the live action series. Oh, how about
I
yourself?
by myself, I am just kinda getting through life right now. I'm officially on medication for mood and blood pressure stuff. Yay
Mhm.
me. I did actually have something I wanted to mention that we could probably maybe discuss. So there is a magazine called the Medieval Warfare Magazine, and I picked up a copy, and I didn't realize until I actually sat down and read through it. There is an article in this issue, Volume 11, Issue 5, of Eric Yeager, the guy who wrote The Last Duel, which they based the movie off of.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, maybe we could discuss that at some point because I actually found it very funny because it's like, of course, it's very. It goes into a bit of the historical referencing to write the book, and it's like, oh, it's a great movie. It's like, dude, of course you're gonna say it's a great movie. It's based off of your book movie. Come on.
Mhm.
But I just find that very interesting. I also found it very interesting that there's a magazine called Medieval Warfare Magazine. It's got a
Indeed.
lot of interesting articles.
Rabble dabble. Well, that'll be it for this episode of the Talk Past podcast. We will see you again either on the 6th if I'm lazy
Woo!
or uh, some other time in June. So until then,
Till then,
beep it
thanks for
about.
listening. Woo!